One of my absolute favorite ways to elevate designs is by incorporating some organic texture. So here I have this logo design from a studio standard template. We've got the Carefree serif here that I've used. That's one of mine. You can get it on my site at jenwagner.co. There's also, I believe this is Xmith and Highway Gothic Narrow. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this really beautiful Roman clay texture that I'd scanned, and I'm going to put it in as the background. And while that's really pretty, it's the details that make such a big difference. So what I'm going to do from here is change my blending mode over here on my logo to overlay, and that's just going to kind of make it look a little bit more part of the texture in the background. And I want to continue to embed this logo onto this texture. I want it to feel like it's a real part of it. So what we're going to do is I'm going to turn this layer off, and I'm going to select all, edit, copy merged, and then paste. And we're going to be using this as a displacement map for our smart object here to kind of give it that embedded texture for this. So from here, I'm going to desaturate this, go to Image, Adjust, Desaturate, or Shift-Command-U. And then I'm going to use my levels to just give it even more contrast, make those highlights a little more obvious, make the shadows a little more obvious. And the higher contrast this gives me, the more detail I'm going to get on my displacement map. From here, I'm going to save this as the displacement map and as a PSD, so make sure it's saved as a PSD. Let's turn this off. And then from here, let's turn our logo back on and make sure it's a smart object just because it's easier to edit. If it's not, you can right click and do convert to smart object right there. So we're going to go to filter, distort, displace, and let's start with 4 and 4, and we can always adjust that as we need to because it's a smart object. I'm going to pick my displacement map here, and what that's going to do is just add this really beautiful subtle texture that matches the texture behind it, so it looks like it's like printed onto the texture behind. So there's what it looks like after and before. So it's really subtle, but it makes a huge difference. And if you want it to be a little more obvious, you can play with these numbers a little bit and see what that does. It's going to distort your text quite a bit more, and I find that I usually like it to be a little bit more subtle. But it's such a subtle thing that makes a world of a difference. So try this on your next design and see how it goes.